Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here from 9 to 5ers, and we're going to be talking about rental properties by the numbers. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? Am I buying a job or am I buying a retirement? So what to expect? We're going to be talking about how to evaluate the rental property's numbers. We're going to only focus on the property itself. So we're not going to really focus too much on the market trends or the macro data. Like what is the overall market doing here? We're just going to be focusing on the properties in the property by its numbers in this video. We're going to explain the numbers and then we'll do a case study here at the end. So as a disclosure, please remember this is for educational purposes only. If you decide to go out and put a plan into action, make sure you have a good mentor by your side, a financial advisor, certified public accountant, all your ducks are in a row, and they're helping you make the right decision as you move forward. So by the numbers, first, the thing that I like to look at is, start at the top of the sheet and work your way down to the bottom and see what that number is going to turn into. So the rents, what are the comparable rents in your area? And this is by the property type, by the feature, and by the location. So if you're buying a duplex, make sure that you are comparing the rents in the area to other duplexes and not to an apartment complex, not to a single family home, because a single family home is generally going to give you a higher rent than a duplex, and an apartment complex is going to give you generally a lower rent compared to a duplex. And by features. So what are the features that we actually care about? We actually care about, it's a sliding scale. So number of beds, number of baths, the location, or the square footage of the property, the inside of it, and maybe the types of features that they have. The number of beds and the number of baths is going to be way more important in comparing than if a property has a dishwasher or not. Now, remember, we're still comparing duplexes to duplexes and single families to single families. So if your duplex is a 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square foot property, don't compare it to a 2,000 square foot property that has 5 beds. That one is going to get way more money. So make sure that it's an apples to apples comparison. And this may sound complicated, but the closer it looks like to yours, the more accurate of information that you're going to get. And make sure you're doing it also by location. So within a radius, quarter mile, half mile, whatever gets you some comps. And make sure that you're also looking at the schools. The school line is very important. And if you are in an area where your school system is, say, a little bit worse than the neighboring school system, don't compare that rental property in the better school system compared to what yours is. So you can go down to your county office, and there's even apps online that you can look up the school, how the school zones are cut out. If the schools are all basically the same, they have the same type of rating or reputation in your area, then you can go a little bit wider. But if there's a big difference in the schools, in their rating or how people feel about the schools, make sure, that you are comparing your potential property to ones that's also in your in your school zone. Some of the things that I like to use for this are Zillow, Rentometer, and Classifieds. Zillow is going to give you a ballpark, and I say a ballpark, I'm being pretty generous with their number. They're going to get you in the ballpark of what that rent is going to be. Is it $500 a month? Is it $5,000 a month? They're going to get you in a ballpark of where you maybe should start off of. Rentometer is a website as well. They're going to give you a ballpark information. They might give you a little bit closer of a number than, say, maybe Zillow. What I like to do is I like to go on Zillow or the Classifieds or maybe a Craigslist or one of those, somewhere where they're actually advertising rentals, and there's someone actually physically put up an ad for a rental. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath, fully furnished duplex, and it's in this area and it's within a quarter mile of mine. What are they asking for that property? How does that compare to mine? Is it better than mine? Is it worse than mine? That is a jumping off point. And remember too, that I said, don't compare them to single family homes or to apartment complexes. Well, that was half true if you have a duplex, then yeah, a single family home is going to get more rent. So that's like that can give you a range. So let's say the single family home is out there and it's 1,000. Okay. And let's say that an apartment over here is the other end of the spectrum, because no one wants to live in an apartment if they can live in a duplex or a single family home. So the rents are going to be lower in apartment complexes. Then you would say, okay, the rents over here in the apartment complexes for the same beds and baths is $500 a month. So now we know our range is between somewhere 1,000 and somewhere between 500. So could potentially be at 750. I don't know, but we at least know that we're not going to get more than 1,000. We're definitely not going to get less than 500 if we're comparing the amenities as the same. Make sure your number is fairly accurate here, because this number is going to affect the rest of your numbers down the line. You don't have to sit there and panic and freak out if this number is not within like a $5 range. If it's not within a $5 range, and that is the difference between you making money and not making money, the deal wasn't that good enough anyway, and you need to move on. So next we have our rent. Let's say we have a rent range and it's within $50. It's between $800 and $750, we'll say. Well, we need to add in our fixed expenses that we're going to have to pay no matter what. And that would be the taxes. These are searchable, and you can look them up on your county site or your city site. How much I might have to pay for my taxes every single year, and then divide that by 12, because it's going to give you a monthly basis, because make everything apples to apples comparison. So if you're getting paid rent, and you're focusing on a per month basis for the rent, then make sure that your taxes are going to be paid out in a monthly basis, even if you don't pay your taxes on a monthly basis. Same way with insurance. This is quotable. You can call up an agent and go, hey, I want a quote on this property. Let me know. They can go out and they can take a look at the property, and they can look at it and give you not an actual estimate, but an actual quote. So this is like a hard number that you can actually go off of, and that shouldn't change. So that's going to be your taxes, and your insurance should be hard numbers that you can use. Repairs are a little bit more artistic. A lot of times when I'm talking about repairs, I'm talking about small fixes. So we're talking about a leaky sink. Maybe there's a part of a sidewalk needs to be fixed, or maybe part of a roof needs fixed, or maybe part of the siding blew off and you need to replace or fix the siding on the side of a house. These are small repairs that pop up intermittently, and we don't know when they're going to pop up, but you need to put a number there that is going to account for that unexpected repair. Leaky toilet, whatever it is. In my area, I put $100 back just for repairs. It might be different for you, but kind of just you need to put a number here, and it can't be too low or too high. So maybe just go with $100, and then when you actually purchase the property, it might be a little bit different depending on the type of tenant that you have, and also how much it costs to get things fixed in your area. But find a number, put it in there, and make sure that it's conservative, so that just in case you are under it, then you're doing well. And if you hit that number, you're still fine. Reserves are a little bit different. So we're talking about that leaky roof, and we need to replace 4 shingles. Okay, that's a repair. If the roof is 30 years old and it's basically down, like it's just worn out, it's lost its life, then you need to replace the entire roof. And that's not going to be a couple $100. That's going to be a few $1,000. And those expenses are a little bit more predictable. So an HVAC unit going out, a hot water tank that goes out, a roof that needs to be replaced. Barring a major disaster, you can kind of plan when those issues need to be addressed. A hot water tank, if it's brand new and installed, in my area, you should be able to get 8 to 10 years out of that hot water tank. Same with an HVAC unit. Now, if it's super old and it's like, man, this thing was built in this was installed in 1992, then you might need to replace it now, or it might go at any minute. You don't know. You need to put money back for your reserves. And they're different from repairs, because you can kind of calculate when you're gonna have to replace those, but you need to put money back either way. Put $100 in here, or put in whatever you feel is comfortable for this number, but you have to put a number in here for that. So $100 or whatever you feel is comfortable. A vacancy rate. People don't like to put in vacancy rates, because they just sort of forget that people will leave the property and you will not be making any money off of that property. So a vacancy rate is based off of the rent and how long it's going to be vacant for. It's a percent, and the range that I like to put in there is 2% up to 12%. 2% is if you are in like a top tier neighborhood, single family home, great school district. Your property has amenities that not a lot of other properties have around it. It is the top. You're going to looking at like a 2% vacancy rate. If you have an apartment complex and let's say that you have a lot of competition and maybe the area is a little bit rougher and the school system is not so great, you need to move up to the double digits area at maybe say 12%. So what this would be is what the percentage of the year that your property is not going to be making any money, and that's going to equate to a dollar amount. And the reason why we put it as a percent is because your rent is going to be dependent on what the area rent is. So is it 12% of $500? Is it 12% of $1,000? So put that in there. Always go a little bit higher if you have to with this rate, just in case if the market fluctuates a little bit, and if you go higher and then you end up lower, then you have more profit than what you expected, which is always better than the other end of the spectrum. HOA fees, this is if they apply, and they expect these to increase over time. I don't think I've bought a property that has an HOA in the area. That's too much of a pain in the neck for me. But if you have an HOA in an area, make sure that you put that cost in there and add that to the fixed cost expense and expect that to go up over time. Management fees, call around and ask for area rates. Sometimes it's a flat fee. Let's say it's X dollars per door, or it's a percent. And the different management will have different rates, and they will also have different levels of service. So you'll have to ask and figure out what rate that you're going to, maybe the average of all of them, or if you're going to manage it yourself, then I would still put in a management rate, even if you're going to manage it yourself, because not only you're allowing yourself to pay yourself, but you're also, just in case you don't want to manage it down the road, you have that cash flow in there set in stone, that you can afford to pay somebody else to manage the property for you. This is going to get you to your NOI, or your net operating income. And this is cash flow that you're getting from the property with all of your fixed expenses without any debt service or a mortgage on it. Debt service is the next level. So we figured out what our net operating income is, and that's all of our that's our rent minus all of our fixed cost. And now we are down to our principal and interest payments only. So why principal and interest? Well, that's because we've already figured in taxes and insurance. Watch out for ARM loans, and ARM loan is a loan that adjusts every X years. An ARM loan would be out there. Let's say that you have a mortgage for 20 years and it's a 5-year ARM. So that means that rate can adjust every 5 years. So that means over the life of the loan, if you don't pay it off early, that can adjust 4 times. But if you pay it off early, then it won't adjust. And you need to watch out for those to expect them to increase. So watch for that principal and interest payment to go up. Actually, it wouldn't adjust 4 times. It would adjust 3 times because you'd have paid off in year 20. So scratch that. And refinances are a bonus only. And by that, I'm saying that if you go out and buy a property with someone else's money, so a private lender, and let's say they're charging you 10%, and you're like, well, I'm not going to make any money now, but once I refinance it and then I go from 10% down to 5%, then I'll be cash flowing. No, do not plan like that. You need to make money on that property at 10%. You can't lose money until you get it refinanced, because the refinance could never happen. The banks could change their rules. We could go into a financial slump, and then you have to deal with the private lender for X more years, or maybe you don't have enough money saved up for the refinance process and something else happens. You can't just lose money and expect it to make money someday. You have to have that money in there. So make sure that refinances to a lower rate are a bonus only. So now we have our NOI, so net operating income minus our debt service, and that's going to equal our cash flow or our projected profit. Does that make sense? So let's do a case study here. Let's say that we have a duplex and it's $850, and we're making $1,700 a month gross income on the property. Our taxes are $100 a month. Our insurance is $75 a month. Our repairs, I put in $125. Our reserves are $200 a month. Our vacancy rate, we're going to say is 7%. And our HOA fees, we're not in an HOA area, and we are going to self-manage this forever. We just know that we're going to self-manage this forever. So we put in $0. What does this transpire to? Well, our net operating income is going to be $1,081. So we take our $1,081 and we're going to take the debt service on this property. Let's say it's $800 a month. So that's our principal and interest payment is $800 a month. And we are cash flowing $281 a month. So is that a good deal? Should I be making money? Is this a house that I should purchase? Well, it depends on three different things. It depends on your capitalization rate, your appreciation rate, and your management time required. And I'll get into these next. Capitalization rate, what does that mean? Capitalization rate is a real estate valuation measure used to compare different real estate investments. Although there are many different variations, a cap rate is often calculated as a ratio between the net operating income produced by an asset and the original capital cost, or alternatively, its current market value, expressed generally as a percent. So the cap rate, the higher, obviously, it is, the better. So how much is your return on this property, your money that you invested? Because we didn't talk about the actual cost of the property. So are we making $1,700 a month gross income on a duplex that cost $50,000 or one that cost $500,000? Obviously, that's going to give us a different cap rate. And I generally don't like to talk about cap rates when, is this a good cap rate? Is this a bad cap rate? Because it is a little bit subjective. But generally, you want to make more than what you would make in the securities market, or the stock market. The stock market, let's say, is 7%. Well, you want to be getting at least 8%. And then, but the other hand of it is that if you are getting a capitalization rate above 15% or even higher, you need to watch out for this because, you could have an awesome deal on your hands. You never know. But generally, you'll get a higher cap rate on properties that require a lot more management, which means higher turnover, which means higher expenses, and it might be in an area that is not appreciating. So what is appreciation? Appreciation is basically a layman's term of is this area growing or is it dying? Is this a good area that's getting better or is a bad area that's getting worse? In my area, the appreciation rate is 1% generally. And that is a average rate of return since they've been kind of calculating how much houses cost in my area over the many, many decades that they've been focusing on this number. So you want to buy a property that is up in an area that is appreciating and not depreciating, because eventually when you want to retire or pass this property on to somebody else, you want it to be worth more than what it was when you paid for it. Management time required. So expect less time in better areas and expect more time in worse areas because you're going to have higher turnover rates. Nobody wants to live in the worst of the worst areas. And if they have to live there, they're going to live there as short a time as possible before they can move out to something better. Everybody wants to move up if they are on the bottom, worst, highest crime area possible. Versus if you live in the nicest area, are you going to be moving? Probably not. You live in the best area. Unless you're going to move out of state, out of country, whatever, you're going to be living in that area for a long period of time. And your vacancy rate and the amount of time that you're going to have to manage that property is going to be a lot less. So the first part that I talked about there is a little bit 100% by the numbers, like just focus on it, like, get down to that. Are we going to cash flow? There's a lot of times I've done that first part of that process here. Let me go back. An NOI of I'll be at a number. It might not be that number, but then I do my debt service and I'm making $20 a month after my debt service. And I'm just going to pass on that property because $20 a month cash flow, $20 a month cash flow. That means if a hot water tank goes out, that means I'm losing money for the entire year. That's not worth it to me. Let's move back ahead here. The first part of that is you want to be as close to the accurate numbers as you possibly can and expect the cap rate to fluctuate depending on the amount of management that's going to be required. You should be getting a much higher cap rate in an area that is more management intensive and a little bit rougher versus a single family home in the suburbs in an amazing school district where everybody lives there until they die. You're going to have a super low vacancy rate in that area, but you're also going to get the lower cap rate there too. Let's move on. Guys, the next step that you need to do for this is to join your local RIA. Contact someone that is in that RIA that's doing better than you. Contact us, talk to us. What did you think about this presentation? Please like, comment, subscribe. What has stopped you from buying your first rental property? What, if you bought your first rental property, what have you learned from it? I really want to hear from you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment down there, and we will talk to you guys down the road. Thank you so much. Have a good one.